So in this video, I'm going to be talking about supernatural bodies some more, alright? I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to go into some freaky stories and some myths that we should think about, okay? And this is going to be a very supernatural, like, fringy video, okay? I'll probably do a more rational explanation. I like to do both, but I'm doing, like, the supernatural version first, okay? I also have some testimony from a voodoo priestess who is into a cult or something like that. And she talks about how they had some of these supernatural bodies, and it's a bit graphic, so I'm warning you about that. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a Jewish bone box. I'm going to be talking about perhaps these weird bodies that are in some sort of sleep state that people claim to have found, and people who are into witchcraft are using them for supernatural powers. Okay, and this is a very fringy video, okay, warning, and I might be talking about some things that are kind of disturbing, so there's a warning in that, okay. So, I think what I'm going to start off with is the Apkallu. I'm sure everyone's seen these things. What are these? What are these supernatural beings? They're called the Apkallu. There's supposed to be 7 of them, okay, there's supposed to be 7 of them. And based on your interpretation, some people might call them demons, some people might call them angels, some people will call them gods, okay? It depends on your perspective. Okay, the Apkallu, there's 7 of them, and they were like superhuman, or they were supernatural beings. I'll just label them as that. And one of the main things they would do is they would give human beings wisdom and knowledge, okay? That's what those baskets represent. They would pick fruit or wisdom from the other side and give them to the rest of the world. Okay, you can definitely tie these into witches. You can tie this into the Oracle of Delphi. I've already talked about that. Okay, but the one thing that they do is they sleep in the ground for a long time, and at the end of the world they're supposed to wake up and come back. Okay, and theoretically you can use this because the Christians believe that. Okay, yes, we believe that maybe at the end of the world demons are going to come back, or the devil, okay, but we also believe that Elijah and Moses and those guys are going to come back. Okay, you see how it's just about perspective on what you think is going to happen, if they're good or bad. It's probably both, honestly. Okay, and I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about Elijah's the Valley of the Bones in Elijah. I'm using the supernatural version because I know people just think this is symbolism, right? If you don't know the bones of Elijah, very long story short, I'll read some of it right now, okay, because it's very important. This is a very famous Bible story. It confuses a lot of people. There's lots of debate about it. If it's literal, if it's just symbolism, I think God uses all of it. He uses the symbolism of it, and he uses it possibly very literally, okay? Okay, so this is definitely a reference to the Apkallu, and it's crazy because these 7 sages got associated with the 7 witches. Okay, it's about perspective. Are they evil or are they good? Because some people probably thought that Jesus was an Apkallu. Some people thought that Jesus was a witch because he rose from the dead. Okay, they were very paranoid about what was going on about people rising from the dead, and there's definitely an Apkallu theme here. Okay, and that's what this Bible story is. Ezekiel chapter 37 is about God bringing people back from the dead who've been dead for a long time. Okay, so so God takes Ezekiel to the Valley of these Bones, this hidden place where there's a bunch of bones. Okay, and so Ezekiel asked, he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Thus said the Lord upon these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter you, and ye shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you. I will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. So this is about regenerating bones and bringing them back to life. Yeah, it's freaky, right? And it tells you why. It tells you why. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came unto them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. Why is God bringing these people back? Because there's going to be an army, okay? And you might wonder whose bones these are. There's lots of theories. Some people think God's going to bring all the Christians back. That maybe that'll happen. These are crazy theories. But there's a reason why God collects these bones in the Bible. He collected Joseph's bones, he collected Samson's bones, Sarah's bones, and Moses' body is hidden somewhere too. There's probably a reason, just because these bones could be referring to their bones. Okay, he could be bringing them back, which is not even a remotely new theory at all. They think that Elijah's coming back. They think that Moses. Some people think that Enoch is coming back. Okay, and they have found this is conspiracy theory stuff, but lots of people believe this is real. Okay, and I've heard this type of story in people who do witchcraft. They supposedly found these bodies a couple times. They appear to be alive still. Okay. They're not bones, though. They still have flesh attached to them. They're in some sort of hibernation state, okay, which is a theme in the ancient world. Like, some people think that this is Nimrod. Some people think that this is Noah, okay? You know what I'm saying? People, they don't know if this is good or bad. I would really be cautioning you to not assume this is from God, though, okay? Maybe God is going to bring Joseph back and all that stuff. But if you find some weird body in the ground, I would just leave it there. I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't dig it up. I wouldn't mess with it, okay? Because I don't know if it's demonic or what. Just leave it alone. if that would ever, if any of this is even real, okay? Anyway, so I've heard this type of situation all the time. There's these bodies. They're in some sort of hibernation state, and this is just a theme I've heard with people who come out of witchcraft. And I'll give you some testimonies right now, okay? This is a story from this woman in Africa. I listened to these stories. These are people who have come out of witchcraft, and they have almost the exact same stories. It doesn't matter if they're voodoo or if they're coming out of Santeria or what. They have almost the exact same stories because it's the exact same witchcraft. People get very distracted by race. They think that devil just uses race. He uses race to blind people, when half the time these guys are just doing the exact same satanic rituals, okay? They would use these bodies, and they use these bodies for power. It reminds me of the bones of Elijah. For example, that guy fell on the bones of Elijah, and Elijah's bones regenerated the guy. He came back to life. That's a huge theme in the ancient world. They literally thought that some people could not die or they could regenerate. Sometimes these people got referred to as witches. Sometimes these people got referred to as angels. Another group of people thought these people were gods. It just depends. Okay, they had very long periods of life, or they couldn't die, and this is a crazy supernatural version, and God makes a reference to these people. He talks about these Bible passages about how some people will never taste death, like they can't die, and he refers sometimes he referred to them as being good too, which is scary, right? All right, and I'm sure when Lazarus rose from the dead, people probably thought he was an Apkallu or a witch, or some people thought he was a god or an angel. Okay, it just depends on people's perspective, right? Anyway, I'm gonna give you some audio from a woman who was coming out of voodoo. She was a high-ranking voodoo priestess. Okay, and I hear this same story often. They're freaky. I'm warning you, it's very freaky, and it's hard to hear because it's scary. Okay, but I'm gonna show you some audio about these people having supernatural bodies, and they're milking them for power if they use them. Okay, and that's what this lady is saying from this testimony. I'm just taking a piece of the testimony. If you want to watch the whole testimony, it's from my Life is Spiritual Christian YouTube channel. Okay, I just took a clip of it. The testimony is like 6 hours long. Okay, it's very long. And there's many testimonies on that channel. You should watch it, but it's very graphic though.
So I went upstairs. I opened the door. I saw two men. These bouncers sitting wearing black. I saw the casket, 3 caskets. I passed out. And I was like, what?
You fainted?
Yeah, I fainted. Though they pushed me inside, then they locked the door. The moment I wake up, I was wrapped with red lasso, red fabric. They will cover me here with the red, and here with a cobra naitwaje. So I comfort myself. I will not cry. Because if I cry, they will kill me.
Yeah.
And I have my children. What am I supposed to do?
So she just appeared in the room with you?
Yeah.
With 3 caskets?
No, that room have 3 caskets.
Yeah.
1 casket is to bed.
Is a baby casket?
Baby casket.
Okay.
2, the big casket. So this woman appear from the wall, wearing, these fish dresses, in that room with those caskets and dead bodies inside. You will start washing these bodies. It was very hard. I'm trying to control myself. I don't want to cry anymore. I cried. Dad, please. I even say, Mom, I know you are dead, but please appear and help me. I can't do this anymore. I can't wash dead bodies. I'm too young. I don't want to die. God help me so I can finish this.
Let's expose the devil and put him to shame.
They told me, before you start washing this blood, you have to sleep with that man.
No one will be able to understand. They won't be able to tell anybody what they went through. But you'll be able to understand them. And you can bring them to Jesus.
After having sex with that man, they took that man to the bathroom. Other 2-3 ladies went and showered that man. Apply oil. They take that casket is a golden casket, not an ordinary casket. Yes. A golden casket. They took that dead body, but when you see that dead body, it's fresh. Like you can say that guy died the minute, but it's fresh kabisa. But amekaa for long, lakini anakaa kama amekufa saa hizo. They use expensive medicine to keep that body fresh. So wakati walimuosha, wakamrudisha kwa sanduku. Something like smoke come out for that casket. Then jewel come out. Rings, chains, earrings, many things. Then Queen Mother appeared again. And so, 2008, I went back to Mombasa, Kilifi, to the master house. I start washing the same body. Now it's 2 years, the same body. I found another body, na hiyo ilikuwa ni muhindi. Queen Mother akaniambia, this is your job.
And yes, so that is some creepy stuff. And I've heard stories like that many times in many different types of satanic rituals. Sometimes they have bodies of, I hear stories where they have bodies of giants. They use them in their rituals. They get power from these bodies. And I'm trying to be fair here. I don't know what these bodies are. She said she doesn't even know what these bodies are. These are like very high ranking people who are doing really weird stuff. Okay. I honestly don't know if these bodies are super holy and they have energy attached to them, or if they're super evil and they have energy attached to them and they're just using it. Okay, I don't know. Because Elijah has talked about Elijah's bones, his body. He raised that guy from that man from the dead. Okay, and he was not evil, or he's not depicted as being evil. You understand what I'm saying? And there's Jesus' body. That's why the people wanted Jesus' body. It's for the same creepy stuff. Okay, and they all wanted it. Okay, and I'm telling you, God uses that parallelism. So what I'm gonna tell, I believe, so God uses the Ark of the Covenant to explain so many things. Don't you think it's weird that the Ark of the Covenant only had a couple of items in there? Okay. But God uses that gold, okay? There's a lot of symbolism in the gold, but the gold means so many things. But in the ancient world, they would use gold to hide and protect sacred objects, including bodies, okay? Alright, God, the symbolism behind the gold means it's hidden and protected, and there's secret wisdom inside. Okay, and you have to ask God to reveal to you what's inside. And don't you think it's weird that there was only a couple items in the Ark of the Covenant and there's all this room? That's because I honestly think that's where they kept the bones. Okay? I believe that the Ark of the Covenant was the very first Jewish bone box. Okay? It's a box. Half the time it had to be covered in gold to hide what was inside, the symbolism anyway. Okay? So now this is the reason why I really think the Ark of the Covenant was a Jewish bone box, is because the Jewish bone box, it was basically like a portable cemetery. Okay, and they would wait for somebody's body to decompose, and they would just put the bones in there, and that's exactly what they did, because they waited for that. Joseph was buried in Egypt for a while, and Samson and Sarah, they were buried somewhere else for a while. They waited for their bodies to decompose, and they would put the bodies in the box, aka the Ark of the Covenant, okay, for safekeeping, because they didn't want people doing weird stuff like this. Okay. And I honestly don't know if these bodies that these people are doing are holy or not, because I don't know. I don't know if it's demonic, or if it's like these people are holy or something. I don't know, because the holy people have supposedly have energy attacked to them too. I don't know. And even Anton LaVey said the same thing. Okay, if you don't know who Anton LaVey is, he was like a Satanist. Okay, he said that they would have to use blood of really holy, clean people too for their magic to work, not just all the evil stuff. That's why they sacrifice children and stuff like that. Okay, they need the clean blood. And yes, you can say that they wanted Joseph and Moses' body for those reasons. Okay, and obviously Jesus. Okay, yeah. So I don't know what's going on with those bodies. She doesn't know what they are. Then they won't tell her anyway. That's creepy. And God uses that parallelism, man. And it's so creepy because God uses that parallelism so much. He uses it so much, you guys. So she talks about how she's going into this inner sanctum and she keeps passing out when she's near these bodies. Okay? And that's so creepy because that's exactly what happened when people went inside the Ark of the Covenant and into the inner sanctum. Certain people were only allowed in there next to the Ark of the Covenant. And there was even that guy in the Bible who touched the Ark of the Covenant without he didn't have permission to touch it, and he died. Okay? Only certain people are allowed that close to the Ark of the Covenant who may have had these bodies in there. Joseph's bones, Samson's, maybe Moses later. Okay? Because you're not allowed to be doing that stuff, is the point, if you just want to use the symbolism. And even if God uses the Ark of the Covenant to not even describe a specific place on earth, like an actual box, God could be using the Ark of the Covenant to describe hiding things in a different place, like in heaven. Okay, these people could just be in heaven and they could come back, or they might be hiding their bones in another dimension. Okay, God uses the symbolism behind the Ark of the Covenant, not it just being an actual box. Okay, like, you know what I mean, like they call it back rooms, these inner sanctum, these back doors, or these back rooms. They're like these liminal areas spiritually where you hide things. Yeah, God could be using that. Okay, he could be using that version. Yeah, and that's, yeah. And I have to bring this up because she talks about how these people that were close to these bodies, they were like fish. They were like fish. Okay, they had to wear fish outfits. And that goes back to the beginning of time, bro. Look at these priests wearing fish outfits next to the bodies, okay? That goes back to the Abkalu. And God uses the parallelism. Only certain people were allowed to touch the Ark of the Covenant. They had to be super, super sanctified to be that close to God, right? And I believe that person in the New Testament that was really close to God, even if she was there watching over his body and protecting his body, was Mary Magdalene. And it was some of the other disciples too, temporarily. She was there inside the tomb with Jesus. She was like these high priests, okay? That's why her name means a fish or a whale, Megalodon, okay? She was anointed enough to be close to him. She was chosen to watch over his body so other people wouldn't mess with it, okay? You understand what I'm saying? She was there protecting the body. Okay, she was the one that was anointed enough to be close to it. God uses that fish reference for the good stuff too, okay? And that's, God uses the good version. That's why God Christian symbol, their symbol is a fish, because when you're a Christian, you're allowed to be close to God, okay? And I'm not telling you to hang up dead bodies in your room, but you're allowed to be close to God, and you're allowed to do things like this, okay? You're allowed to pray to God, you're allowed to be close to God, and understand things, and get wisdom from God and the Holy Spirit. It's not about you literally having a golden box in a room or anything like that, okay? Don't think that. But something that's very interesting, they would use gold for ritualistic purposes, okay? And that's probably why this gold was supposed to contain the situation. It was supposed to, like, contain the body, the energy of the body. Kind of like a volume control, okay? And I think that's what happened with the pyramids, okay? There's 3 bodies. These are supposed to be tombs, right? There were 3 bodies in there, and people even think that they were using these bodies for energy. They were milking these bodies, like the Egyptians were milking the bodies for energy and power, just like I've been saying. But somebody, if they're gone, somebody removed them, okay? Somebody set them free, or they got let loose, okay? That's the freaky version of what's going on with the pyramids, and I like that theory, okay? The same thing with Jesus, okay? Jesus was set free of the 2 because God allowed it, okay? But yeah, that freaky stuff, and of course that freaky stuff is in movies. I mean, I don't know how many movies there are people rising from the dead and stuff like that. It's constant, right? But some of these movies are not just about people rising from the dead. It's like literally the same story from the beginning of time. And in the Bible, some of them are a little bit too on the nose. It kind of freaks me out. Like, they would use body parts for energy and for their own benefit. And they do that, possibly that's what the Egyptians were doing with those 3 tombs, okay? But they do that in so many movies. Like, if you've ever seen the Minority Report, they had those 3 bodies, like there's 3, I don't know, supernatural beings, and they milk them and use them to, you know, they run the whole world, basically, with their magic powers. Okay. And then they really do that with the Matrix. If you've ever seen the Matrix, you know, everyone's in a hibernation state, but the bad guys, the aliens, whatever, they use their bodies for energy, right? Like, suck the bodies dry. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they were trying to do with Jesus' body. And Moses. And Elijah. Okay, it's like... Yeah, and you know, the theme is usually similar. It's like they wake up and then there's a big army. They come up out of the ground. Or they wake up after a long period of time. Or they come back from the dead. And there's a big army. A big war. Same story, right? It's the same thing. They come up out of the ground, there's a big war. Yeah. Don't they even do that in... They do that with the X-Men a little bit. I remember... I can only use the old X-Men, okay? I know that the Phoenix dies. She's Jean Grey dies and she comes back and there's a big war, right? People coming back from the dead and then there being a great war is very common. They do that. They really do that with those Marvel ones. Like, don't half of them die? Doesn't like Spider-Man and all of them die and they all come back and there's a big war. Yeah. And then names are always hilarious too. Even in the new Matrix movie, they literally die and come back to life. Okay, and then even the names of the movies are so funny. It's like Resurrection, Infinity War, Endgame. It's just a battle of Armageddon. People rise from the dead and they fight. It's a story that literally goes back to the beginning of time. Okay, it's a tale as old as time. It technically goes back to the beginning of time, literally. They're in the sleep. They're buried into the ground. They come back, and there's a big war. And I'm gonna use that, okay, because. So supposedly, in the end of I made 3 videos. Okay, I made these 3 videos. I just did those 3 because I was trying to do the maximum extreme of maybe someone have supernatural powers. Okay, I did Samson and Elijah's, the 2 Elijahs, and then I did Moses. Those were the guys. If there was any kind of supernatural power, it was them. Okay, and their bodies could be hidden somewhere on Earth. And during the last day, when Jesus comes back, there's going to be a war. Just like that's a tale as old as time. You can call it the Clash of the Titans. You can call it the Battle of Armageddon. You can call it the Apkallu coming back. You can call it whatever you want. Okay? You can call it Pergamon. That's why the book of Revelation mentions Pergamon a lot. Because it's talking about this battle. Okay? Between demons and angels. And it's talking about people who maybe have supernatural powers. Maybe. Okay? Maybe. Okay? And God might bring them back to fight in some sort of war. And I know that sounds crazy. It sounds like the ending of an X-Men movie or something. But no, really, that I know that sounds crazy, but that could happen. Especially if you take this stuff literally. And God could be hiding their bones or they somewhere, and Jesus comes back and raises them from the dead, and there's a war. Yeah, why not? That could happen. But the question is, it's a war with who? Perhaps the devil has the same kind of technology or the same way of thinking. He has some. There are many, many, many weird dead bodies under the ground that are probably definitely demonic. And this is a perfect example of this. This is absolutely demonic. Most of the stuff is definitely demonic, okay? They have this type of situation in many cultures. But this is the one I wanted to bring up right here. They supposedly have these monks in the Buddhist religion. They're supposedly not dead. They say that they're just meditating and they're some sort of in some sort of hibernation state, and they're not decomposing in the same way that they should have been. They're like they still have flesh attached to them. They're like alive still. See? And then they have some of those Catholic saints that are not decomposing and they're like weirdly still together, right? If this is true, that's definitely demonic. Like, there's no way that's coming from God, right? Like I said, there could be a good version and a bad version. Like, there's probably just demons keeping these things alive or something. But the problem is, Satan probably still has the same similar magic or something, because they have this type of situation in many cultures and in many religions, false religions. And you can there's definitely something demonic with, if 99.9% of the time, this is probably demonic, man. Okay? Even if God brings Moses and them back, this has got to be demonic. And there was a Ghost Hunters episode of this. I am so glad I found it. So this is a Ghost Hunters episode. I went and looked and found it. It took me like many hours to find which one it was, because I saw this so long ago. I used to watch this. It was on Paranormal State. I had to go look it up. I finally found it. I rented it and recorded it with my phone. So in this video, it talks about how they were out in there was like a haunted house. Okay, these people's dogs kept dying, and they kept having a bunch of paranormal activity, and it was like a very dog related. And everyone's animals kept dying, and they were seeing like ghosts and stuff like that. And so they brought a psychic, and the psychic said there's some whatever this evil energy is getting its power from. It's getting its power from this area right here. And they dug in the ground, okay, and they dug up this is extremely graphic. I'm warning you, okay. They dug up this dog. It was buried way deep into the ground, and it still had flesh attached to it. It was super disgusting. And yeah, they said that's where the evil energy was coming from. It was the demons or whatever was getting its energy from this sacrificed dog, and the dog still it wasn't decomposing correctly. It still had flesh attached to it, even though it had to have been there for a lot longer than a couple of weeks. Had to have been there for a long time, because there was roots growing all over it. There's roots in it and everything. There was roots growing through it. It had to have been there for a long period of time. But for some reason, the dog wasn't decomposing correctly. It still had flesh and stuff attached to it. But that's what they said that the demonic energy was coming from, which is probably true, right?
From trees that had already grown over it, so I don't know how long it's been there.
Ryan, you're telling me that you found the body of an animal that was still decomposing.
Mm-hmm.
There was roots growing through.
There are some roots that are growing.
That's characteristic of ritualistic.
The fact that it's taking forever for a body to decompose. There are some roots that are growing.
That's characteristic of ritualistic.
The fact that it's taking forever for a body to decompose. There are some roots that are growing.
That's characteristic of ritualistic.
The fact that it's taking forever for a body to decompose.
So yeah, so what is God talking about? An army? Perhaps there's some just people or bodies filled with demons who are animating. I don't know. You can make it all creepy and stuff like that. I don't know, because that's nasty, man. There's no way that's coming from God, right? And you know, and this is why God doesn't allow people to rise from the dead anymore, like Lazarus, because it probably is very confusing to people if that were to happen, if it would be demonic or not, because it probably is. Okay. Anyway, And, and if God wants to raise people up from the dead, that's up to him. If somebody else does it, like Satanists or the devil, then it is demonic. Like, it's obvious which one it is, usually. Okay. Anyway, I think I'm gonna... So if God, maybe there's some sort of war between all these people coming back from the dead. Who knows? That's the way you can look at it if you take it very literally. So I made a video about it. Yeah, could happen. Kind of crazy, but could happen. And it reminds me of I have to bring up the Ark of the Covenant. This is a perfect example of God is collecting someone's bones, these people's bones, Joseph, Elijah, Moses, and they come back at the end of the world. It's going to be very scary. Okay, there are many Bible passages about how, at the end times, it's going to be like people's hearts are going to stop, and it's going to be very horrifying. And it might not just be talking about some creepy demons coming back from the dead with saint bodies or whatever. Okay, it could be talking about Moses and Elijah, and them coming back. They themselves is very scary. Okay, it's all scary. I know it might sound very cool, like, oh, Elijah's coming back, Jesus is coming back, but it's going to be a very scary time. It's not just talking about the demons coming back, it's talking about them coming back. Okay, it's going to be very scary because when they come back, they're not going to bring peace. It's not going to be like this peaceful thing. There's going to be a war happening. Okay, it's not going to be like this holy thing. Oh, God's going to raise Jesus back from the dead. He's going to come back, and maybe Elijah and Moses. It's going to be great. And when that's probably not going to happen. Okay, and people are going to be very confused if all this crazy stuff happens. They're going to be freaking out. They're going to be having a heart attack, just like God said they would. Okay, and Christians should be prepared for any kind of craziness, maybe. Okay, but also I try to make God seem a little bit more dangerous than most people do, because God is dangerous. Okay, and lots of people don't respect Christianity because some people make these guys seem way too wimpy. They make God and Jesus seem way too wimpy, like Moses and all these Elijah. They just make them seem very holy, and no, they lay the smack down sometimes. God lays the smack down sometimes. Okay, because there's a certain amount of respect you have to have for God too, and people don't do that because they think these guys are just too wimpy. People make these guys seem way too wimpy, Okay, so don't think when Jesus comes back it's gonna be great and lovely. It's not. It's gonna be a hard time for everyone. Okay, and it's gonna be really hard if you don't repent. Okay, all right, that's the point. Anyway, so I'm gonna leave it with this, and please think about this stuff, guys, and thank you.